And we are live now, for sure. I'm not sure if it got me saying but it definitely got we are live. And on a very special edition of Book Chats and Beyond, where we are celebrating the release of the final book in the Locke Institute. Andy over here is really celebrating with the good stuff. So
I bought this bottle when I was in Mexico about 2 months before the original Rooker Flynn book was published, because Rooker's favorite drink is añejo. So I got a much too expensive bottle of tequila, and I have had a third of it for each one of the books, and I'm going to be having the rest of it tonight. Hopefully not while I'm talking to Nico.
I was going to say that it'll make it interesting.
Yeah, we'll have a very sloppy conversation.
Oh, goodness. I did check. I have a bad track record of accidentally disabling the chat because apparently if you go in to edit anything about the video and you don't specifically say it's not for kids, it assumes it's for kids.
It's for
and
kids.
Disables the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
kids can't chat, but Tony can. Hi, Tony. Good to see you, Tony.
Hello. Excellent adventures indeed, for sure. I felt like I was gonna, do the question like, what would Rooker Flynn be drinking? But I feel like it would just be the straight, so it's not like a surprising answer.
I mean, this is what you brush your teeth with when you're a pirate. I mean, you wake up in the morning, you have some añejo, you brush your teeth with some añejo, you have some water with some añejo, you're good.
Oh, well, you got a review coming Monday. So.
Oh, that's right. I think he finished it like just under the wire. It was like the day before it came out.
I mean, this is the first one with the execution. That was the first one I finished even reasonably on time. So the other two I read quite late.
You guys have so much to try and read. I don't know how you keep up. I mean, it's just like
poorly.
That TBR has to get worse every year. And it's just how do you make decisions about what you want to read? I hope you make decisions based on what you actually want to read, as opposed to stuff you feel like you're beholden to.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons, too, that I like being kind of a smaller channel as well, because I don't really care that much about, I'm not worried like, hey, if I read and review a book that nobody cares about, what are my stats? I don't care. I don't care at all. And that's I read plenty of stuff like that. And then when people pick up stuff and like, oh, I picked up this random book I'd never heard of before and I really enjoyed it. And like, that's awesome, because I just like yelling about things I like. Thankfully, I happen to quite like your books. So
I'm grateful. We made it through the crimes of Rooker Flynn. We made it. You came out the other side of it and you were like, you know what? I'll go ahead and try this second one.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's the second one, too. I was so late to the party that you're like, hey, just wait till the audio's there. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then the third one, I kind of missed the audio. I'm not going to lie. But I was reading it in my head in your voice the entire time because I'm like, I know what it's going to sound like. So I just kept in my head, like I was listening kind of to you in my imagination there, which was fun.
Just this idiot yelling. I tell you that I had the most fun. No spoilers, so I won't say what and who. But there's a song at the end of the book, two of them, and one of them I'm really proud of the performance on it, because it's kind of a capper for the whole book. And I usually try not to sing as much as I can, or at least like make an excuse for why I'm singing badly. But yeah, getting to do that, the song as the finale of the book was really nice.
Yeah, it felt really fitting just based on things that happened and had been mentioned throughout too. So I think it was a good capstone for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, this whole book is just capstones, right? It's just like crimes is like the setup. Oh, here's the prison. This is how it works. Well, that took an entire friggin' book. number two, let's dig into these characters and see exactly how they're flawed in multifarious different ways, and put as many challenges in front of them as we can, in addition to all the crap we threw at them in the third book. And in the second book, and in the third book, you just kind of jump straight into payoff.
Yeah. Well, and with these ones, while it was very frustrating at the time with your very rude cliffhangers.
So mean.
But it made it so that once you start book 3, though, you're just like going like right into it immediately. So yeah, it was just start to finish. I felt like I got through it so quickly.
I love that you were the one who said, if he ends this thing on a cliffhanger, I'm going to kill him.
Because like, I don't know how you would have done it, but if you would have, I would have been enraged. And I'm like, I will come find you. I'll be in your area in like October. I will come find you. And
this guy is not a writer. He's a jerk. Oh, Pina. Muchas gracias, señorita. They really just feel like
just one book.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you know this.
Smart.
It was supposed to be like Pina's exactly right. I hate to say, but when I started writing this thing, I that was what, okay, Sky Scratcher. Like, that's one of the things that I love about Portal Fantasy, is that you get the chance to do those jokes, right? And you don't get to do modern references without having some kind of Portal Fantasy. And what I love is that Rooker every single time gets it wrong. Whenever Jack says something he doesn't understand what it is, he always says the wrong word. And it's just it's a pile of fun to get those jokes in.
It's for some reason, and I have no idea why, but like the fish out of water style humor has just always worked really well for me.
Yeah.
Like whichever direction you're going, whether it's like character coming into like our modern world or vice versa, I just like, I don't know. It always it just works well for me. So I did have a lot of fun with those too. And it's just it works well when you with the way it's set up too, because sometimes people will try to do that stuff when it's not Portal, and it's just like you can't really do that though.
No, you have not laid the groundwork for this.
Yeah.
I'm
not there are some people who are like, oh, you know, it's the new thing is, oh, well, what you're reading is just being translated into whatever you would normally be reading. So that's why I'm using words that don't make sense in the fantasy world. And such a cop out.
I got past that in two ways. Number one, Portal Fantasy. Number two, having Keymark translate everything for you. So theoretically, you're understanding it because the WIC is translating it into your head the way that you would hear it. So you can get away with not, you can ditch a lot of the these and theys and wherefores and high speech and just kind of dump it back into standard American speech and not feel too bad about it.
But yeah, I mean, that's, that works too. I feel like to some extent, unless the focus of your story is like linguistics and language, there's only so much of the different languages stuff you can do. And even if it's not like the focus, and even like I've read books that do a great job with it, but you have to spend time with it. You have to establish it. And so that's where I feel like the sci-fi approach is always just give a reason why, like, Doctor Who. It's like, oh, the TARDIS just translates or we have a bug, a bug we'll put in your ear, or, with Perfect. Stargate, where they're just like, people just speak English. After season
Imperial
1,
standard, it always works.
Oh man. Funny. Oh yeah, I was gonna say I do have Satis still needs to read Border Knight.
I gotta be honest. You gotta be warned about Border Knights. Border Knights was a giveaway, right? It was one of those things that you're supposed to do as an author, and you put it up on your site, and it's so short, and it's basically a 3-act comedy, and that's it, and you're out. So there's not a lot of depth going on.
It is pretty tiny.
Oh yeah, it's an itty bitty. And there's another one I'm working on. I've had so many people ask me for a Valyrian Sigh story, so that's the next up on the novella list, is getting a Valyrian Sigh novella that'll probably be a 5-act structure, where we do a little side adventure with Valyrian, and explore a little bit of what he's all about from his perspective, because apparently everybody likes hearing about him. And then, you know, it ruined everybody's expectations by yanking everybody out of the Rooker Flynn books.
It definitely was not what I was expecting at all in so many ways. That was where, yeah, the whole first book for me was just like, what is happening? Like I was, it took, that was the one. It took me a little bit because I'm just like, it was so different from what I was expecting. And then by book 2, I was just like, this is so good. I'm having such a fun time, and just didn't even care. And so it pulls you in, but definitely, yeah, I know. I feel like you get some twisted pleasure out of doing the unexpected or making people suffer a little bit.
Dude, I swear, to me, the best thing that you can do is with storytelling is surprise the audience, right? Because everybody, you're kind of expecting these things. You've seen these tropes, you know what it's supposed to be. And that's one of the great things about starting something new is that, you know, they've got a little bit of expectation coming out of Blackjack, and then you start into this new thing. It's like, no, this is a new world with a new guy with a new take on things, and the world winds up reflecting the characters. So, you know, you're writing a story about Rooker. This is going to be a mean, heartless, cruel, vindictive, take advantage of everybody I can world. And so, you know, that's what you wind up with. And like little, you know, like Gerba Whipmarples, when she first shows up on the page, you're thinking, oh, it's another troll like Memphis. Yay!
Gerba Whipmarples. I feel like the audio is worth it alone just for Gerba and that character. You had way too much fun in the best way with that character. That was just delightful to listen to. Oh goodness.
Oh, the trick with her in audio is making sure she doesn't go English, because she wants to go English. That whole kind of proper reading thing to her, that very kind of clutching the pearls diction that goes along with her. And so she just became, I started out with Mrs. Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island and just kind of riffed off from there, which allowed her to be posh but stay American. Because I didn't want to get caught doing a bad English accent.
That is fair. I say accent and voices are hard, so I've been practicing reading miscellaneous stuff to my daughter, just because I want to be like elite tier reading things out loud, so that hopefully she'll like the books that I like. Is the idea?
Yeah.
Because when she was like a newborn, I just read whatever and she was fine with it. But now, if I try to open one of my books, she will frantically try to shove the bookmark in or close it because she's like, no, I want to read my books, not your books. So hopefully we'll get past that eventually. But so I've been practicing, and sometimes I just do ridiculous things. Like my wife has several recordings of me reading kids' books in my Christopher Walken voice. It's just, whoa, I'm walking here. I can't actually hear myself, so I don't know if that sounded good or not. But
oh my gosh, I need you to read a paragraph of any book behind you in Christopher Walken voice.
Oh, hold on. Okay, that's good. The Black Buccaneer chopped Cayman's arm off and kicked the rest of him overboard. He left the severed hand pinned to the rail. Crew dropped a sail a half. There you go.
Oh my gosh, this is brilliant. Okay, you're doing the next audiobook. We'll give you a stage name of Christopher Walking, and we'll be all set.
Oh my gosh, it would be fun to do for sure. Oh gosh, we have Twainy saying, "You horror writer, you."
Oh, actually, you know what, dude? Like, thank you, Twainy. To me, like, it begins and ends with Stephen King, and if I can scare anybody for half a second, I feel really, really, really good about that, because he is such a master. And I take a lot of the prose style from King. I'm not a storyteller like King is, but I take a lot of the prose style from him because I think it's really easily accessible and easy to read, and keeps you engaged the whole time, keeps it, active and lively. And Yeah, but being able to scare, I would never attempt. Ooh, okay. So the only time I ever attempted to do a horror story was for what was the for Advent of Winter, because they did, they're like, hey, do 6,000 words. Okay, what are you going to do with 6,000 words? And to me, like, if you've got that narrow of a timeline, you either do a comedy or you do a horror. So I just went ahead and did a horror piece with that. But the skill set to maintain that the entire time without overplaying your hand is that's a feathering act that I'm not skilled enough to be able to do that. I think the guys that do that really well deserve rounds and rounds and rounds of applause, because scaring you without visuals and without audio is a pretty amazing feat.
That's pretty fair.
I mean, even a guy sitting around a campfire has a better likelihood of scaring you than print on a page.
I've never been a big horror reader, but I feel like some of the stuff that I've ended up liking is sort of like the atmospheric horror, where you just like really feel like you're in the setting. And so that's some of the stuff that I've liked is I feel like falling in there, because that I feel like that gets passed, because instead of just being like, I'm just reading this book, you feel like you can really feel the setting and feel like you're there. And so, but
yeah. Salem's Lot is the one that got me. I was like 13, 14 years old. I was in my room, started reading after dinner, and was absolutely captivated. And about 1 o'clock in the morning is about the time when the kid shows up on the second story window and starts clawing on the glass, asking for his brother to let him in. And I was just like, well, I'm not stopping now.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh!
Congratulations. I've been really.
I
feel like everybody's
Joe
used to me ignoring the chat.
I love Joe so much. We got to go he took me by the scruff of my neck and dragged me to Worldcon, because I did not want to go. And he said, oh, we'll have a good time. It'll be great. It was awesome. It was just like, like the first night I went to bed at like 8:30 because it was 11:30 mine time. I hadn't been to sleep, took a red eye on the way out there. It was just completely ready to crash. And he called me. He said, come down to the lobby, dude. I was like, okay, whatever. And I go down to the lobby, and there are like 40 people I know in the lobby, all of them authors, and 8 reviewers maybe, but like everybody's an author. I'm like, I know you. And so you just wind up having these conversations all night. And plus I get to hang out with Joe, which is always a delight. So I'm glad he made me go. Thank you, Joe.
As I say, I wish I could have gone. I feel like that would have been so much fun. So one of these days I'll make it to one of those types of conventions.
We'll go to one that's like closer to the Midwest or something, Yeah. They'll have a Worldcon in Chicago. We'll go to that.
I know that could work for sure. We got Ben in the house.
Oh, I love Ben.
Asking if you have any acting training or experience.
Ben. Oh my gosh. Talk about a holdout. Ben like read. I think he was okay with Blackjack, and I think he didn't want to read Crimes. And then he read Crimes because he was part of the readathon that we were doing, and it was just like as I will be courteous and I will read this moron's book. And he and he got after reading the first one, he's like, this pretty much sucks. And then it was the same thing. I think with him, we did the audiobook for number 2, and he was just like, wait a second, this does not suck as much as I thought it did. So sorry, Hollywoodland. Yeah, so I did acting for I think like 7 years, and then I got out to LA and started going on auditions, and while I was doing that, I got a job working for Quentin Tarantino, and they sold the first script I ever wrote. So I became a writer pretty fast. It was much easier. But I will say,
to start off there, it makes sense to just be like, yeah, we'll do this. This is working.
We'll do this. This seems to be working okay. And, it did. I mean, I sold like, a dozen scripts over the course of like 8-10 years. And that was a lovely career. But being a writer, just like being an actor, has a shelf life. There's only so long you can do that before you get replaced by the next crop of kids from Yale. But yeah, doing the audiobook scratches that itch as a performer, because when it comes down to it, what I really like is just talking to people. And so being able to mimic people or pick up on emotions and what they're thinking kind of goes along pretty well with acting. And so you just be empathetic. But, after you get trained for all that stuff and then you do it professionally for a year and then never do it again, you don't have like a lot of opportunities to go, let's go to the local theater and we'll do a troupe and we'll put on an Our Town. It's just like, it's not really a thing you do when you're a human being with children. So yeah, doing the audiobook definitely scratches that itch.
I could see that. So, I'm to all the Christopher Walken comments.
Oh, there we go. See, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh, good.
All right, now I want you to do the monologue from let's see. It's not Crazy Stupid Love, Romance, True Romance. All right, go.
I have no idea.
That's all right. You can go ahead and watch the monologue and then figure out how exactly inappropriate it is for me to ask you to do that monologue.
I assume let's see. I was Googling it.
Let's call it culturally insensitive.
I was gonna say I took a look at this, but now it's making more sense. Okay, now I get you.
And Quentin Tarantino wrote that screenplay, so Quentin likes to use a certain word more than he should, and has Walken use it in that scene way too much.
Andrew reading Dr. Sleep.
So Dr. Sleep, I'll be interested to find out whether or not you enjoy it. Obviously, it's no The Shining, but maybe there's some stuff in there for you. I hope. I have a King sickness. I haven't read all of them, but I think I've read all but maybe 7 or 8. Well, and every once in a while we get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm done. And Holly was the point where it's like, okay, I'm done. And so I'll stop reading King for 3 or 4 years and then pick him up again.
Fair enough. He's got the anejo, Andrew.
Hey man,
you must have missed. We talked about that up front, but
Andrew, you're familiar with this bottle. That's the Rooker bottle, and it's gone tonight. This is good. This is the end. With the publication of the 3rd book, the trilogy is over, and so is the añejo.
I see. Now I feel like I should have had a drink instead of sparkling water. So
Shots.
I'll see if my wife is watching this right now and brings in a drink. I don't know. Sometimes she pops. We'll see.
How cool would it be if you're just talking and like all of a sudden a silver tray arrives in the screen, finds you with a tumbler of scotch?
Oh, that's right. So yes, if you're watching this, I expect not only the drink but the silver tray for effect. So we gotta go all out. So then we just have Andrew mad that I'm ignoring him for a little bit here.
You can't ignore Andrew. He'll just keep, like, he's like a kid. He'll just keep pulling at your pants leg until you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm also notorious for ignoring the chat, but especially on these, because it's just like, just chatting. Like, I don't know, if it was a really terrible conversation and I'm like, let's desperately look in the chat for something to talk about.
Please, for the love of God, this person is completely boring.
Oh no. I don't think I've had any chats that bad. There's definitely been like the ups and downs with some of them, but especially when it's not when it's like this, which is kind of informal, you very quickly find out who can carry a conversation and not. But I'm asking people that I either like I want to get to know and talk to a bunch, or people like you that I know pretty well, and I know we could just sit and talk all day if we wanted to.
Just screw around.
So. Yeah,
screwing around really is the whole point.
Yeah,
I love execution and need to review. Oh, you scared me multiple times. I had turned the lights on. Gotta drop work. Oh, you're skilled. I was scared. And you sing. Ta-ta for now. I mean, what's more scary, the scary scenes or the parts where I sing?
I have to just think I thought it was pretty decent. So that's always the weird part though with songs, because it always sounds weird if you have it sped up at all. Um, and like I always listen at least a little bit sped up. So it's like, do I slow it down so the song doesn't sound ridiculous, or do I just let the song sound ridiculous?
Right? Right. Let's be honest. Most of the time, when you're reading with your eyeballs, yeah, a lot of people skip the songs, right? You just kind of skim them real quick and move past them. You know, not everybody's J.R.R. Tolkien.
I've gotten razzed for that, but when I would read that, that's one of the things that made me not enjoy Lord of the Rings as much as I probably would have. I hated having to force myself to read the songs, but I also felt like I had to read them because I'm like, what if it's important?
Yeah, there's
And
something
it
in
never
there.
really, I mean, it never really was that important, but it's part of the whole thing. So I'm just like, sigh. But I was always the person like I skim usually. So there's part of my brain that's like just skim, and part of my brain is like you need to read every single word of that. And so it's
Yeah,
always a
I
battle.
usually assume that the author put it in there for a reason, so I'm going to read it. Some kind of hidden meaning in there, some kind of parallel for what's going on in the story, or a hint for what's going to happen
Exactly.
further on down the line. Actually, I got a question while we were on 20's thing. Was there okay, out of the whole like trilogy, was there a part that scared you?
I'm not usually one to like, I guess, react quite that way, but you had some of like the particularly like deep with the I'll be vague, but some things, and lots of things involving spiders that definitely felt like they were out of horror. I would imagine that's what get people. I'm not like the big like immediately terrified of spiders person. Not particularly fond of spiders, I guess, in real life, but
Yeah, the
there were
fantasy
definitely like
spider.
there were some moments there as well. Like you had some stuff with the Strigoi too that could have been. Did you listen to that, by the way?
Oh
The
yeah.
Strigoi thing?
Nico sent me some. There's a bad guy in the book called Strigoi that are a type of demon, and he sent me an album by a band. I think the band was called Strigoi, right?
Yeah.
And it was some death metal.
Yeah, it was. I found that completely by accident because I was searching on Spotify to pull up a specific song, and it was close enough that it pulled up a song by that band that I've never heard of. But I'm like, oh hey, Strigoi, and so I clicked it. And I'm like, I had to send that just for fun. But I listened to the album, and it's not quite my thing. I do listen to some heavier stuff, but that one was like, it wasn't bad though, honestly. So
Wow. I like the fact that you're willing to just jump into an album and go, okay, I'll try this out.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
you would
the fun
not
thing about the
care
Strigoi,
for what I was trying to look up.
right? It's just like it was something. The thing about the Strigoi that I like is that you try and pull in stuff from actual mythology, and Strigoi were an actual, I think, Croatian style vampire, and I looked it up to see if anybody had used it a lot in books, or like it was something that I didn't know about, and it didn't seem like it was super common. So I was like, okay, I feel pretty safe putting this in here. And the people that know it, great, and the people that don't know it, okay, it'll sound like a cool new word. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to do vampires. I don't want to do werewolves. I want to do something you haven't seen. And
I
so
can
you get all these
appreciate.
question marks about what it is and what it can do, and maybe you make a couple assumptions, and those assumptions are wrong. And to me, that's a lot more fun. Like, did you see Michael B. Jordan Sinners? You see Sinners?
Oh, I haven't yet, but I'm very curious.
Okay, I don't want to wreck it for you, but for the first 60 minutes of the show, I was like, oh, what is this evil thing? What is it? And then at a certain point, you're like, oh, bing, and it's like, oh, it's those. Okay, well now I know everything I need to know, and it kind of loses its allure for me at that point in the show. But holy Moses, that movie is just from dusk till dawn with better acting.
Oh, that's an interesting way to describe it. So
Absolutely what it is.
Yeah, I did not realize that the Strigoi was a real thing. That's why I saw the name, and then I Googled it after. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, then I got to learn a little bit more about like an actual thing like that, which was cool as well. So I'm definitely a much bigger fan of that than the same old.
Rakshasa is an Indian demon, I think. I just tried to pull them from everywhere. Whenever I start a demon, I'm like, I wind up with the demon crowned. Oh, let's see. It's Rakshasa. Is the easiest way to say it, and I just love the idea of demons because it removes all of the question marks about shades of gray and just gives you pure evil. I don't need motivations. I don't need to explain their methodology. It's just like, hey, these things drink blood in order to survive. Got it? Good. Okay, let's go. Except no Selma Hayek. Oh my gosh, there's more comments than I thought.
Oh yeah, I'm skipping down a little bit because I've missed a bunch here, but apparently Andrew wants to make AIU sing "Bringing Sexy Back."
I'll just sing it straight to you. I'll call your cell phone and leave it on your voicemail.
He reads the songs. That does not surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, T. I'm absolutely with you. I feel like if they bothered to write it, I'm gonna read it. It's like that dumb prologue debate. I never understand the. Did you bother reading the prologue? Shut up. You think that they put this in here for no reason?
Right?
That's your
blows my mind. Like, I don't understand how you can say like I don't read that. Like, what is the part of the book? Like, if it's like the introduction from the author, fine. You don't have to read that if you don't want to. That's understandable. Fine. That's an introduction. That's not the actual book, but you got to read the book.
To me, at worst, a prologue is the music under the opening credits of a movie where they're showing you long shots of the village or whatever. They're just setting a tone. They're just letting you come to the emotional space that the author wants you to be in, at minimum. So why would you not? Why? I don't know who these people are. If you are one of those people, stop it.
Very fair. Very fair. So Andrew mentioned the dark tunnels, giant flushing spiders, for sure. I think that's some of the scary parts. Also, snakes and blackjack was worse for Derek, I guess.
Oh, man, we had the snakes at the beginning in the tunnel, and then we've got the big white serpent at the end. That's interesting. Okay. And we had some symbols of snakes during the beginning. Okay. Well, Derek, I will be including more snakes for you in the next round.
Oh, man. I was going to say, yeah, I definitely skipped. Oh, we do. I was going to say we got Tobias Youngblood in the house here, too. So I'll pop that one up. That was talking about sinners.
Tobias, I'll tell you, I worked on Pulp Fiction, and then I worked on a movie called White Man's Burden that was also Quentin Tarantino and Lawrence Bender. And then I worked on Dusk Till Dawn. And that was one of the funkiest jobs I ever had in the world because we were all on that big soundstage with the bar. And every single day, they had 4 different corners in the bar where they had topless strippers dancing while they were shooting. But while they were not shooting, there was no good way for the strippers to get down. So they were just sitting on stools up in these little platforms with no tops. The entire time it's just like, this is the weirdest job I've ever had.
That does sound a little weird. I think this is talking about the snakes specifically. It came in during that story, which makes it funnier, though. So there you
go. We got Dusk Till Dawn, plenty of snakes in there, and Selma Hayek.
This is true.
It's a metaphor for sexual intercourse.
Oh man! I mean, it's just crazy too, just working with on Quentin Tarantino stuff and like some of like the really big ones and everything too. So it's
Yeah.
definitely stories to have, still to this day, I imagine. So
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, you figure out. To me, Quentin and Lawrence Bender was the producer for A Band Apart, and they were like the left and right side of the brain, right? Because Quentin would bounce all over the place and super creative, but no control. And then Lawrence would show up at 8 a.m. and go, okay, you need to get these 3 scenes done by noon. And when it's noon, I will come back and check on you. So he gave Quentin this box to work in, and then he could bounce all over you inside the box. But he had to get those 3 shots done by the time, it was lunch. And they were a very effective pairing of 2 guys who had 2 very different skill sets, making a whole person that was better than either one of them could be on their own.
that makes sense. I feel like you probably need that to an extent, even if you're even if you're Quentin Tarantino, you need somebody to like, rein you and get you going. Because I could see him just making a movie forever and it never getting released because he's still just constantly doing
just going and going. It's the same Stephen King problem, right? If you just let Stephen King go, he'll give you 850 pages and no ending just because he ran out of steam, right? And it's the same thing with Quentin. He'll give you a 3-hour movie that has an ending that goes on for an hour with just slow motion gunshots going the entire time.
Oh man.
Or a flamethrower in a swimming pool.
It's always a valid choice. Oh my God.
When I got him, who got who inspired? I'm asking you, like,
I think that's getting Quentin inspired. Maybe.
I don't think Quentin was inspired by me. I was definitely inspired. Like, imagine this. I'm in college. Reservoir Dogs has just come out. All of us love Reservoir Dogs. We've watched it 30 times, right? It's de rigueur viewing Friday night before you go out. And it just makes you feel like a bunch of badasses. And then you go and you move to LA, and like 7 months later, I'm working for the guy. Well, oh, of course, this is how your Hollywood experience is supposed to go. Of course, you're wind up working for the number one guy that you have loved completely with your whole heart for the last 2 years. Sure, let's do that.
It's crazy. It's definitely probably not the way it goes for most people, but
No, I know. I mean, like I said, those Yale guys, Yale University produces some pretty good writers, and they come out every year. Usually there's about a dozen of them, and they're all looking for your job, right? And we're all competing for who's going to write this script and da. And 11 out of 12 of those guys never get anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. They've got the education, they've got the right connections. It just doesn't play out for them. So I honestly believe there's a big deal of luck and grace. It's like God kind of taps you on the shoulder and goes, "You."
Yeah,
right? And
I can imagine.
Famous. That's like being able to work and make money.
Yeah. I feel like with any of the, whether, acting, writing, a lot of those kinds of things too, it's, you got to have some luck that stuff just works out and happens, because you got plenty of people who are might be very good, and if they never get noticed, they just never get noticed. And so
I feel the same thing about indie books, right? I know that there are 100 books out there that are killer and absolutely staggering that will never see the light of day because not enough people are ever going to lay eyeballs on it for it to get any traction. And I feel like, this is why I feel grateful to you and reviewers who are, bother to look at this stuff. I mean, you guys are finding the diamonds in the rough and letting people know about it. So there's a whole bunch of indie books that I've read that I would have never touched had it not been for you guys. And the payoff is so great. The one I always go to is Rob J. Hayes. I think Rob J. Hayes is a friggin' genius. I think I don't think there's anybody working in fantasy that can do a 250-page story better than Rob J. Hayes does. Those Mortal Technique books are killer across the board. And they're clever and inventive and cool. And if I had not been part of the indie community, there's no chance I ever would have discovered Rob.
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of people like that. This does feel like a time to say, make sure that you help the Rooker Flynn Locke Institute books get noticed. Go out and buy a copy today. As of today, they're all out. So
they're all available.
Need a series to be completed, people. You're good now. Which side did I think I had it on the other one, but we're gonna put it right there. So
yeah, because it really is all one book. I mean, like I said, you and I have talked about this before. I got done with the opening setup of getting them from the introduction to the Locke Institute to the Schick and the cages, right? And realized, oh crap, that's 100 pages. And then I tried to trim it down so I could get it there faster. And then it had no emotional resonance whatsoever. It was just like lay-in track info dump that took 9 chapters. And I was just like, okay, I can't slow it down. Okay, well, this book is now 250,000 words long. This is going to be 3 books.
Fair enough. It makes them, easy to, if they flow really well, and they're easy to get through too. So
yeah, they're all sitting at 85,000 words, 300 and whatever, 40, 50 pages. Especially for you guys, it's like a snack.
It's nice to have shorter books, so because I have too many long books, and I like my long books, but you can only do so many long books.
Yeah, you really and fantasy gets so fat so fast, because all of the world building can just kind of take over and get fatter and fatter and fatter. And I honestly feel like for every 25 pages you go over 350 pages, you need to be like twice as good as a writer as somebody who's not doing that. And then you go another 50 pages and you need to be twice as good as that. Like the people that can carry off a 750 page book and make it work, those guys are writing gods, because you should not be able to hold somebody's attention that long without dropping the ball somewhere along the way. And so many people do.
That's fair. Yeah, that is I definitely, if a book is really long, I feel like it does make me in some ways a little bit less patient, even if it's really good. Like I'm doing Speaks the Nightbird by Robert McCammon right now, and it's very good. It's a couple hundred pages too long, but it's very good.
Yeah.
And so it's like it hasn't like dampened it that much, but there is just times where it's just something is happening, and I'm like, I don't think we needed this, and we definitely didn't need it for this long. But it did. There was a scene in there, and it takes place in like the very late 1700s, I think. But there's a scene where there's a guy who has like his throat is sick, and he's sitting with a doctor. He's like, "Oh, why don't you try these like hemp cigarettes that I have?" And they just sit and smoke for a while and chat. And I'm just like, why are we doing this? But it reminded me, there's a scene like that with in Count of Monte Cristo that's like the same thing though. Just it's so unnecessary, because I always read the unabridged version of that one too. But there are definitely the times where it's like, this was an aside we did not need.
Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, there's an entire book that's not necessary, right? Like I think book 4 of Les Miserables, it's just a giant history of the French Revolution. It has nothing to do with any of the characters at all. It's just like skip book 4, you're fine.
Oh man. We say Pete knows exactly how tall you are. I don't know the context of this at all.
I don't know either. I'm not particularly tall, nor am I worth mentioning. I'm not particularly short. It's just kind of boring, standard American guy. Right?
Oh man. Oh gosh. I swear, if I start reading projectionists and everybody sits and stops to have some hemp cigarettes for a while,
it'd be great. So let me ask you a little bit about execution, if I may. So,
sure.
Like, I don't know, spoilers, not spoilers, but like, that the you have that introduction where you close out the Pip story, and then you kind of move into Rooker alone, recognizing he's alone, carving his name on the wall, and then we get Jack with Gerba, and then we have the scene, which to me is the scene. How did that opening play for you? Were you just like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to this, or was it like a slow start, or how did that go?
No, I think it worked really well with it, and part of it is, you have the cliffhanger, and if you go directly into those, I feel like part of that's with your pacing. Like if you start too hot, then it's hard to keep it up. So kind of taking a step back, having that bit of closure going through and kind of finishing that up, I think it worked really well. It does some of that pacing there does remind me of like what a TV show might do, which kind of makes sense since you have a bit of a background with like writing. Like you have like the cliffhanger, but then like we're going to start on something else and then we're going to work our way back to it.
Yeah.
And so I think from a flow perspective, it works because I really wanted to, of course, see what's going to happen next. But then I'm getting something that's satisfying and it starts off strong and then eases me into getting to that stuff. So I think it flows really well. It did for me anyway.
There's so many different things I was worried about with that. I mean, number one, hey, spoiler alert, don't kill the dog is one of the things that you're told not to do as a storyteller.
Unless you're,
I'm just going to turn everybody off right at the beginning. And then I think it was Josh at Red Fury Books is like, well, they already know the dog is dead. I mean, they've talked about this at the campfire scene. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not surprising anybody here.
You didn't. It's not happening on screen. I feel like makes sense, but that whole thing was, it was so terrible in like a good way, but like, it's just like, oh man, the way that sequence works with just the constant like, oh, let's keep going. It must be over here, and it's just like, oh man, it's terrible because as the reader, exactly what happened, and you get it, but you're seeing the character go through it, and you had a lot of those really just big emotional gut punches for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those great things where like you don't know how much you trust the reader. And so it's like, okay, how much of this do I need to put on screen? And how much can I not put on screen and have them get it when they're supposed to get it? And every single draft, we cut more and more and more and more and more of that out, right? Until it was implied. And then, from the moment that you have him go from ship to ship, I love that section because it's just utter manipulation on the part of the captain. Going, oh, well, why don't we take the ship over here? Well, why don't we take the ship over here? And it's just like, oh, okay, you're an asshole.
Yeah, it really did hit hard though. So, and it's I think that again it's the going for like I'm gonna do a follow up, but we're gonna follow a different character completely, and like you still have Jack and you still have some other returning characters, but it's kind of a bold next thing because I think everybody's expecting like, oh, you do another book with Jack, and it's just Jack comes back every now and then, like that's kind of the setup that would have worked, or like I feel like the which I'd be curious if you ever do it because I feel like the implied thing is at some point when he's much older he ends up going to Keymark, but it's like way back in time, and that's how the legends get started and blah blah. And like who knows if that'll happen. That's always my assumption from the first book of what'll eventually happen, because you have that kind of setup where time works differently and it's portal fantasy. But so I'm like, oh, we're going to do that, or we're going to just like he comes back a few years later and, other more stuff's happened. But no, it's we're coming back. We're doing a different character, a completely different place, just nothing you would expect. So it's bold, but if you pull it off, it works. And I think it worked here really well.
I'm just glad you thought I pulled it off because it's a weird thing to do.
That's where, like I said, anybody who's reading the first book and it like takes you a bit to like get into it or figure out what's going on. That's where I mentioned, like, I had the same thing. I liked the first book, but I was just like, I don't know about this. I don't know if this is gonna be, if I'm gonna like love this like I had loved Blackjack. But then it was once I started book 2 and I just like I was so incredibly sold. I kind of like nothing really changed. Just I knew what I was getting into by that point, and everything had been established, and we were just going. And I'm just like, this is just so good. Like it just ended up flowing really, really well.
Yeah, if you're bold enough to jump to keep on going into book 2, there's a lot of gratification that happens. The problem is, I mean, we've talked about this before. I can't do Blackjack again. I cannot imagine doing, and Jack goes back to Keymark and all the same people are there and we're going to do another thing where he comes of age again. It's just like, no. So I told Josh at Red Fury, I was like, Blackjack is being 14 and your parent figure, your father figure is the most important thing in the world. Rooker is when you're 16 and your parents don't matter as much anymore and your friends start to become the most important thing in the world. And then the next series will be when you are 18 and love is the most important thing in the world. So you just kind of, it's all a coming of age story, but brought in through different lenses.
So you're switching to romantasy is what I'm hearing.
My version of it. I mean, as different as Rooker was from Jack, the Lady Lee story will be from both of them. And we'll keep the pace and we'll keep the humor, but again, the main character shapes the tone of the book. And Lee is not a romantic person. But you start to explore those feelings, and Layla's like, "Yes, I'm going to throw in."
Now she's watching.
Sex all of a sudden.
That's she's all for like the smut books, so that's
right. It'll just be turgid and tumescent all across the board. There'll be a throbbing member 5.
Oh goodness. Oh, I can't even blame you for doing the abridged version. There are definitely things that could be removed there.
Right, I've got that big copy out on my bookshelf in the other room. I've read that sucker. I've read that sucker twice. I have not read that sucker 3 times. Because the third time I went through, I was like, yeah, I think I'm good. I'm TBR immediately.
I think twice. Oh goodness.
All right, Lady Lee coming out 2026. Sign up now.
Oh man, there's a booktuber. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but his channel is Another Bibliophile Reads, and he's an older guy, and he's very like soft spoken, and he just kind of calmly talks about books, and he does do some like fantasy. He does a lot of like literary fiction, just miscellaneous stuff. He did a video review for a stalker dark romance book called Lights Out that my wife loved. And I saw this and I'm like, what is happening? And it was hilarious because he was giving a very balanced review, but it's just coming from him. It was so funny because it was just such an odd pairing. And the comments were great too, because everybody was just like, I never would have thought you read this. And I'm like, you have to watch this because it's a book that she legitimately liked, but it's just not the target reviewer that you would see doing that.
So did he give it fair shrift? Did he say these are the things that people who like these kinds of books would like about it? Or was it just this was just not for me? And
it was a very balanced review. And he did talk about some of the things that he liked and didn't like. He talked about, why the things he understands why people would like it too. And he did a little bit too, where he was commenting about like the main character, where he was reading it. And I'm like, this is just not realistically how men are, with like the crazy, chiseled guy. But then he said, then I think to myself, yeah, but I probably don't mind it too much when the busty blonde, woman in my fantasy book, and just kind of the same thing. And so it was a very fair and balanced review. And like he really did try to give it a fair shot, knowing it wasn't going to be for him. And so it was a good review. It was just, it's like I said, he wasn't even trying to be funny. It was just kind of one of those. It was the situation that was funny.
Yeah.
In general, and so it was so much fun.
I love that.
Yeah, I read one of her books one time. We made a deal where she had to read a book. So she read Assassin's Apprentice, which is a great book. and I had to read one of her books, which was terrible.
Well, I may argue that Assassin's Apprentice is great. I think the further you get along in that series, the more amazing it becomes. I read Assassin's Apprentice the first time. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then
I was the same. That's fair.
After everybody hyped about it, get over it. It was a good book.
I will. Yeah, I think when I read it, I gave it like 3.5 stars. Like I liked it, but I also was like, I don't get why people are obsessed with this.
Yeah,
and then I read Royal Assassin, and that's where I fell in love.
Holy Moses!
Yeah,
and then like by the third really book, I didn't even understand what the hell was going on, and I was still in. Nico,
yeah, the third book
for me.
So I thought she was slightly further than she was, and I asked her about something that hadn't happened yet. And yeah, that was my bad. I just put the link to that video in the chat for you, Tobias, if it works. But I was gonna say I did not care for the book of hers that I read very much at all.
So was it like spicy?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask about spicy, because I never read spicy books except for usually it's just horrible crap happening, is when or Ken Follett just suddenly going full on sex scene for like 3 paragraphs and then you're out. When you get to spicy section, number 1, how many of them are there? And number 2, how long do they go on? And number 3, how graphic do we get?
Yeah, I one of the reasons. So I've been Wheel of Time. I started when I was like 11 years old, and so Wheel of Time it definitely informed everything that I like about fantasy. It was like the big series it bridged over, and I've always liked the fade to black type of thing for me. I feel like there's
into the fireplace.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, you know what happened. Okay, we have and then 3 paragraphs. Oh honey. Pages, all caps. But I have made no secret that I'm not really a big fan of spicy stuff or sex scenes in books. I just feel like it rarely adds something. Yeah, it's just like it rarely adds anything, and like so many people are just not very good at it. Even from the people who like that will say like most people just shouldn't do it. And it's just always like, I'm like, I don't want to read some awkward sex scene. And even if it's, I guess, really well done, I still probably don't want to read it. It's just like, I could do without. I feel like most of the time you could just imply or like say it happened. But Guy Gabriel Kay has some cringy ones, which he's pretty notorious for.
Oh, I just started Arbonne. Is there some in there?
Well, the opening is a little bit weird in there. There's definitely some. That one's not that bad though. Tagana's supposed to be the worst. I have not read that one though.
Okay.
But it's.
I gotta write something for Layla. Hang on, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm gonna go write like 5 quick smut pages for Layla, and I'll sling them her way.
I'll read them in Christopher Walken voice.
His turgid member.
Oh man, it's been a weird stream in the best way. Oh gosh, I can't believe I've never thought I did. I literally, she recorded me doing it one time. I picked up one of her books and started reading it in like a really like crusty voice. And it was really funny to me anyway. She was mad about it, but she recorded it and sent it to a couple of people because there's some people that are in the Discord that are more so read the stuff that she did. And so that was the funny thing is I mentioned that the book that I'd read, and Trin, I don't know if you know Trin, but she's just like, you read that book, and like blew her mind, and it was funny.
Oh, she's got to be all iron flame dragon sex. I mean, well, dragon sex is the point in the conversation where I realize that my shot is empty and I need more. tequila if we're going to talk about dragon sex. Let's not talk about dragon sex. How about that?
I mean, better than have you read Speaks the Nightbird by Robert McCammon?
No, it's third on the list.
Okay. Apparently, according to Andrew anyway, apparently he at least once a book just has something super messed up. And I got to that. And it was unnecessary, and it went on for way longer than it needed to. And it was not for me, but it's not between people. I'll say that. Yeah, it was it's not good. Yeah.
Let me switch over to something else. Here, let me ask you another writer question. So, because while I got you, I'm gonna ask. So, yeah. I did a super weird thing with Execution. By the way, I don't even have a copy of it yet. Like, it just came out today, so I still have the Arc Band books. So I'm waiting for my real ones to get it, which of course I'm immediately going to send out to other people. I'll wind up with my copy in like December. But it was terrifying when I realized that the third book had to happen in one day. And I thought, I am so screwed, because I have never seen anybody do a book that takes place in, it's not even a whole day, it's like 13 hours. And I thought, there is either I'm going to blow everybody's reading speed out by it being too fast. Like, I'm already fast paced enough. This is crazy. And so I thought I would just make everybody explode with, okay, stop. I need a break here somewhere. Were you ever at a point reading this thing where you were just like, calm down? Because that first act especially is just like, whomp.
Yeah. It definitely, like, the urgency was definitely there, because a certain scene involving being out at sea I'm trying to say this as vague as possible.
So the end of Act 1?
Yeah. Like, everything that happened, and then we're going there, and there's like, that was, you could just feel the kind of the crazy chaos and going, and you get like the tiniest bit of a breather after that before you just kind of like really get going again.
2 chapters.
It definitely was breakneck. I could see that being for some people that like a bit much and like need a break. I ended up just reading that part so fast because I flew through the last book, honestly, and I feel like some of that was the pacing. It just makes you not want to put it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's built for that.
Yeah,
I mean, that thing is a Lamborghini. It's just, you get in and drive.
Yeah, but it's always, it's one of those things too. Like, I've joked before. David Gemmell has had a quote about how you can't start too fast paced, because then you'll have to keep it up or the book won't be good. And so you should never start something that kicks it off too early. And have I ever said this to you? Do you know what I'm talking? Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. I'm like, if I'm repeating myself, I'll stop. But
you mentioned it earlier, like 2 minutes ago. But yeah.
Oh, okay. No. So, it's about the book Waylander, and he says he was teaching a class, and he mentioned that you have to be careful with your first line, because if you go too hard, then you're not going to be able to keep it up. And somebody asked for an example, and so he just made something up, and he's like, they'd already begun to torture the priest when the stranger walked out of the shadows, and used that as an example. And later he's like, yeah, I kind of like that. And he wrote a book, Waylander, where that's the first line. And so he started off as like a bad example of that, starting the pacing too quickly. But if you do it, it can definitely work out for sure.
Well, and the other thing too is that it's not bad to start fast, because it gets the reader in. And if you can give them a first chapter that either has a satisfying conclusion, a surprise, or something that leads them on into the next thing, you've done your job. Then you can slow down. It's not a bad thing to start fast and then slow things down.
It can depend. I've definitely read some stuff too where sometimes like the prologue is like really good. It's excellent as a big draw, and then sometimes you can slow down too much, and then it makes it difficult. And you can overcome it for sure. Like the most recent thing I read like that with, I just actually finished it recently. I don't know if
say
you ever heard of
Illborn.
that.
Don't say Illborn. Okay.
I'm pointedly not, but that is a good example though. But The Wayfarer Redemption by Sarah Douglas, which is like 90s fantasy Australian author.
I love your reviews by decade. Just those chunks. Just like, let's talk about fantasy from the 80s.
It was fun, and it also added way too many books to my TBR as well. This was one of them. But I'll like next week I'll be announcing something about all of the massive books on my TBR with that though. So there's a little tiny sneak peek. But the prologue of this book is this woman is like going through these frozen wastes. She's extremely pregnant, like going to be like due very, very soon. And she's out in the middle of this like wasteland, and she's trying to collect enough stuff. And you find out it's because she, during like this festival where these two peoples intermingle, is the only time they're allowed to, but you're not allowed to actually give birth to a child because it would be considered an abomination. And so she didn't want to get rid of it. So she goes off on her own, and she's going to like just hide in this cave and give birth. And that's her plan. And then as she's going, these like shade things called scralings come out, and they like feed off of human fear, and they're chasing her, and she's trying to get to the trees, and her baby starts kicking like wildly, and then it eats its way out of her, and she's like bleeding and dying, and the shade things come and take the baby and end up raising it. And that's the prologue of this book. And like, yeah, it was so unexpected. I'm not even counting that as a spoiler because that's literally the prologue, but that is how this book opens. And it's just like, I was so shocked. I could not believe that that's what happened. I was not expecting like demon baby thing. And then
they warned you it was an abomination. You should have listened.
Yeah. It's because it sounds like, oh, that's just that thing you say. And then it jumps forward, and then it starts a much more like traditional fantasy kind of thing. And it took a bit to get going again, but I'm just like, after that prologue, I was sucked in. But then I'm like, are we not going to speed back up at some point? And it did, thankfully. It had some issues, but it was a fun book. But yeah, that was a absolutely wild prologue. And after that, like, I was finishing that book. I'm like, I need to know what's going on here. And so, yeah, it was very unexpected for sure.
Well, and with this one, I felt as long as I got to, like, as long as I broke it up to, it's day, dawn, and dusk, right? The day is divided up into 3 acts, and boom, boom, boom. And as long as I brought you to a high point at the end of each act, and then you start the next act, okay, take a breather, and we'll start our way back up again. And I feel like as long as you do that, you're okay.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's like, I've got 20 chapters and 14 of them are action. Am I putting my foot on the gas too much here?
For a book 3, I feel like that also helps with getting.
Oh yeah, so much. You can't do that just straight out of the gate.
Yeah, it would be a bit much if you were starting, but then that's why book 3, I feel like, you've established things, we kind of know what's going on, we know the stakes, we know the players, and so you're just kind of rolling with it. And yeah, that's where I like my slow paced stuff a lot too, but it was fast paced in a really good way. It really worked.
Nice. The other thing on the flip side was there's a slowdown scene. We go swimming. There's a slowdown scene. We've got 2 Gerba chapters where we're letting you know what's going on her end of the spectrum. But the one that kept getting longer and longer was there's a scene where both of them are exhausted and have been going and going and going and going since the night before. And they're heading toward their destination, and it's just taking a while. And it's going to take a while. And so there's that whole scene where it's just the 2 of them. It's just dialogue all throughout that scene. And once I realized how much meat could be on the bone there, that scene kept getting longer and longer and longer because there was actually more stuff to put in there. And like that whole Japanese broken pottery mended with gold thing was like the last thing that went in. And I'm so glad that I just kind of kept working and working and working that scene, because I think that's the metaphor that plays for the entire book. And it took a while to get to that piece. And it's just like, oh, this is perfect. Okay, cool. Let's do this.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to have those kind of breaks as well, too, especially when there's just so much stuff going on. Absolutely.
Well, it's tough because you're in the third book and you've done most of the character work at that point, right? I mean, book two is where most of the character work happens, where the kind of big shift in both of them occurs. And by the time you get to 3, they're in the same boat. And so there's, from a character perspective, there's not that much left to do, but kind of driving home the emotional truth of that relationship. I was really happy with the way that scene came out. And I'm really glad that you liked that scene at the end of Act 1 that we're not going to talk about, because the visuals on that scene are killer. I only hope that I described it half as interesting as I see it in my head, because that whole tilting over the edge thing to me is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my head.
I was like the breakneck, and it was again the way that scene transitions then into the next act. I think works really, really well too. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And you mentioned specifically too, because I know we chatted, but just the focus on friendship, which I do feel like I agree with you, is not something that's focused on nearly as much.
Oh my gosh!
And that's just
so much
so nice.
That, like, front and center in your review. Like, that was like one of the first things that you said. And I was like, oh, okay, thank God. Because yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you on that. It's the least lauded love.
Yeah. No, 100%. I feel like people just, you don't get as much of it. It's not focused on a ton. And whenever I see a book that actually just really does friendship good, and the thing is, people like it. People talk so much about when there's like really, really great friendship in books. Like, people still talk about Lies of Locke Lamora, and like how much they love that, but nobody does it that much. You just don't get it. It's just usually it's their other forms of it. And I feel like also, if you're going to do it too, and it's not like you just like, oh, your characters are really good friends. Like, that is such an integral part of the story, is the friendship element, and specifically them, and even, it's probably not a spoiler, but like you have there's this scene where they're just like, they don't even need to talk because they know like what the other one's thinking and saying, and they're just kind of moving in tandem, and just like that really, really strong connection from that part where it's friendship. And it's just, you don't really get that a whole lot. And so I think that was really nice.
And I wish we had it more. Soapbox. I wish we had it more, because I think that once men have children, they either devote themselves to their families or to their work because they think that's what they're supposed to do. And men suck at creating friendships past a certain age. And if we're not playing business golf with somebody, unless there's some other purpose for what we're doing, it's very difficult to go walk up. And my kid does this. He walks up to people and goes, "Will you be my friend?" And if it were just that easy, and if we could just remember that from childhood, because it doesn't take that much. Most guys, middle-aged guys, are desperate for any kind of friendship, because it's that thing we gave up because it's like the potted plant we forgot to water, right? It's our life goes in different directions. You start having responsibilities, you start cutting pieces of yourself away. And it's the easiest thing to get rid of your friends, because they're busy getting rid of you because their lives are also doing stuff. And unless you make time and take a specific effort to go somewhere, create an excuse, and do a thing together, then you're going to just have your family, and your family is phenomenal, but you need something other than that in order to have a whole life. And I think it's one of the biggest shames of, let's call it the 21st century world, that we have given friendship such short shrift in what it means to enriching our lives. End of soapbox.
No, I mean, it's an important one too, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that too. And like I know that's I definitely had that experience with people where they get the same thing, like, oh, you have kids, like that's all now. And so um that's where like like obviously I love my daughter and everything and my family, but like I've been trying to, part of the reason this show exists and I finally got around to doing it is like actually, do things, because it is so easy to just not. My nature is I'm very prone to just like absolutely not like talking to people very much.
Right, we're nerds. We kind of
yeah, it's very easy for me to do that. And that's why like my couple of best friends, like we rarely talk, but we're the kind of people that we could just all of a sudden be together and it's like no time has passed.
pick up.
But it's like, yeah, that's where like I know I need to be better at doing some of that effort. So that's where I drive it. Very, very true.
I'm gonna say two things on that. Number one, WorldCon was a great example of that for me, because I love the community and talking to the people in the community, not just to get book recommendations, but because a lot of them are like me and just kind of nerds and like fantasy stories, and this is the thing that gets them off. And it's like, okay, let's all share that together. But sharing air and breathing the same air and being in the same space with somebody is an entirely different thing. And it made, like Andy Peliquin, I had a good relationship with Andy. We had talked a whole bunch, but like we see each other at the con and like within 5 minutes we're hugging and just can't get enough of each other. And it's fantastic. And the other thing I want to say too is, you specifically, like I know for a fact, when you come to Indianapolis again, I will see you. Right. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm going to get to spend time with you. I know that we're going to go out to something or place. We're going to make some dumb excuse and go. And I love that, because it's that the community is fantastic by itself. When you can augment it with real world relationships where you actually get to spend time with somebody face to face, breathing the same air. I just don't think there's anything better than that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's where too, it's, it's been, and that's not to say anything, because the book tube community, everything is great. There's lots of people that I, talk to and I've become friends with, but, there is definitely something different about just actually going, meeting people, seeing people in person. And so like, I didn't expect it to be like an annual or a twice annual thing to go to Indiana and do stuff like that and whatnot. And where it's been a bit now with the baby, but yeah, it's just right. Like, it's really nice to do that, to meet people. And so I've had the pleasure of getting to meet a handful of people. So it would be really fun to do some sort of big
Andrew Meredith. Right? You got to hang out with Andrew Meredith. Just like this, that, and the other. I don't give a crap what we do when you come to Indiana. We'll go-kart racing. I don't give a damn. Right? It's just something. It's just an excuse to hang out. And I love it. And I'm not taking anything away from the digital communication part of it. I think that's a phenomenal baseline and gives you the opportunity to maintain relationships that you wouldn't get to otherwise. But it's just the cherry on top of the sundae.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, hey, we got Book Lounge. So
we're still late.
Yeah.
All right, you need to do 5 shots to catch up.
I'm a late start too.
Wait, did you have a whiskey arrive while I wasn't looking?
I would say we got bourbon. I think that was while you were talking. There was no silver platter, but
she's so great. Did she do that total stealth?
She handed it to me just off screen.
Round of applause. Well done.
Oh man. Also, for the record, absolutely, you deserve it, Derek. Absolutely. And we're talking about execution here, so
you might want to start with a third one. You really don't want to start with the execution of River Flem. That would be a bad idea.
I think he's read the other two already, to be fair.
Oh, good.
Man. I was gonna say, I think I missed something there. I say I'm gonna read the first line of all of your books in Christopher Walken voice and send you a clip of it later.
Validating my purchases. Yeah, I think what
I tried.
I'll write a short story for Layla. You can read it in the Christopher Walken voice, and we'll send it to her. Right? We'll just do.
You're gonna get me in so much trouble. Oh man, I mean, it's like
you say tumescent.
Oh man, it really is just like there's only so many times you can read the same book over and over again without having to amuse yourself at least a little bit. Yep. Especially because they're all like super short. And
are you talking about romance books?
No, like the kids' books. For like
the kids' books. Oh, the kids.
No, that with doing the weird voices. That's kind of why I started doing that. But like I read when she was a newborn, I read the entirety of Lud in the Mist out loud, and that made me enjoy the book a lot more because there's so many ridiculous lines in that book that were so much more fun to read out loud in a silly voice. So it was ended up being a fun time. So, but now I have to with reading all of her books, where it's the same thing over and over again. I'm like, I got to make it amusing for myself somehow. So that's where I'll do ridiculous.
And the great thing about that is, what I'm guessing, what you'll discover is that some of those voices become family lore, right? I don't think there's a month that goes by where my wife doesn't go, beep, beep, get out the way. I don't have time for every truck along my way. Right, which is a kid's book for Little Big Blue Truck, but those lines, she read them so many thousands of times. We all know them by heart. We know exactly the cadence she's going to deliver them in.
There's a few books in the collection. It's the bird collections, like the Hungry Bird, the Sleepy Bird, like things like that. But the Hungry one, it's the bird character who's on a hike with its friends and doesn't want to eat any of the snacks that they brought, but didn't bring his own. And there's a line in there where the sheep's like, "Oh, I brought some delicious grass," and the bird says, "Grass? I think you mean gross." And we quote that so often already.
When he's third, it'll still be around when she's in middle school, right?
Oh, probably.
Oh yeah, we got to go out onto the grass. Grass? I think you mean gross.
There was also there's one that's the Grumpy Bird, and or no, I think it's the Sleepy one, and it's trying to get the bird to go to sleep. Somebody offers to read a book. They're like, "Oh, you want to read my story? It always helps me go to sleep." And then the bird's like, "No, thanks," and walks away. And that used to be the part where my daughter would just be like, "I'm done," and close the book every time. And so it became a fun thing too. Oh man. See, Derek confirmed he has read all prior releases.
Oh wow, I didn't realize Derek had read all of them. Yeah, it would be a bad choice for sure. Ooh, okay. Judge's ruling, Nico.
Okay.
Do you have somebody who's not all that into YA portal fantasy, which is pretty much the entire community? Do you have them start with Crimes of Rooker Flynn, or do you say you need to read Blackjack first? Because I think it's like a coin flip.
So I actually just had somebody ask me if they need which one to start with, and I feel like you absolutely could read Rooker Flynn first. I think it would be fine, but Blackjack establishes the characters and like the world. Like the setting is different enough, but I feel like you'd be okay if you didn't have that. But I feel like having the characters established definitely adds something. So I think Rooker Flynn would still be good and you could still read it on its own. But I do feel like reading Blackjack first makes sense. But then you keep it at the caveat of, hey, if that's not so much your thing, this is really different and you might enjoy it more as well. But
right.
It's like
YA portal fantasy is going to turn you off.
Blackjack is still one of those books for me. Like I was so not expecting to like it, and I put it off. Like I remember like people were talking about it, and then finally I was convinced to read it just because I'm like I don't usually do YA, and whenever somebody tries to pitch me their YA book, I'm just like, and then they're like, oh, but it's different, and I try it, and I'm like, no, this is still YA, and it's just not really my thing, and that's there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not really my thing.
Not my thing.
But it's like it captures. I think I said something to the effect of probably worded better, but like reading Blackjack, it made me feel almost like nostalgic, like it was a story I already knew, even though obviously it's not. Like it felt almost like a comforting reread because it just felt like something I would have loved when I was a kid, that I didn't even know I wanted to read as an adult. But instead of like going back and trying to read something I read as a kid and hoping it's aged well, I'm reading something that feels very modern and works. And so it's definitely is kind of, it's sort of a young adult book, but it's just, I don't know, it's the spirit of it and the feel of, of the adventure fantasy. But yeah, so I don't know. I still think reading Blackjack first does make sense, but you could read Rooker Flynn. I think you would be fine. You just might not get quite as much of the impact right away from the characters.
Right. And my thing is that if you start with Rooker Flynn, everything that you need to know for that series is there on the page. You're not missing anything. Anything that needs to get referenced from what happened previously is referenced. But I also feel like there's some people that would read it and feel like they're missing something because they'll have questions, even though they're not missing something. It'll feel like my dad watched, if you remember the first Avengers movie, he was like, well, I wasn't really sure about it because I hadn't seen all those other movies. I was like, well, it doesn't really matter, Dad. You can watch the Avengers without watching the other movies. And he was like, yeah, but they were talking about, hey, remember that time in Budapest? And I felt like, oh, I didn't know what happened in Budapest. I was like, Dad, none of us knew what happened in Budapest. It's a throwaway line in the scene. So I feel like no matter, even if you're not missing something, you can feel like you're missing something. So
yeah,
I have no idea what my recommendation is supposed to be for what people are supposed to do, which makes it fun for me.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm also, though, I like to arbitrarily read books in the order they were published from authors.
Yeah.
Even if you don't need to, even if somebody's like, oh, their debut is fine, but this series they did later is really, really good. I'm just like, yeah, but I like arbitrarily reading in publication order. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't always do it, but it's definitely my tendency. Especially if I think I'm going to want to read all the stuff from an author. But there have been some notable exceptions where I've absolutely not done that. Like Kay, for example. But
right.
I'm doing that with Discworld even. So.
Oh, I think Discworld is meant to be read out of order.
I'm reading it in order, though.
Oh, God. Okay.
I'm one of the only people who does that.
God bless you. You will have a comprehensive view of the entire thing and the advancement of his style throughout.
You do get, almost all of them can be read in any order. There are very few that are actual continuations, but there are a ton of running jokes and things like that too, that if you've read the whole thing, you'll catch more. But there's also Discworld, the level of jokes per book, per page, per whatever, is, I feel like, almost impossible to catch. I've started, I'll look afterwards, there's an index thing that has every reference or thing. It'll explain what it is. There's a whole compendium for Discworld books. Yeah. And reading through and being like, oh my gosh, yeah, I never would have known this, or some of the things, because it's he sometimes is writing things 5 different levels that I'm like, who is this actually for other than him? Because he likes doing it. But it's some crazy stuff in there.
I love that. I've got a couple under my belt from way back in the olden days of school. And then I just recently read Guards, which I'm very happy to... I started it. It was one of those ones I started it. That's 3 months ago. And I got maybe 50 pages in. I was just like, no, this isn't funny. I'm good. I'm good. Maybe I'm not. Maybe this is not for me. And then one of those nights just came back to it because I didn't know what else to read. And I was like, oh, wait a second. So it's amazing how much mood has to do with whether you enjoy a book or not. It's staggering to me because it's just like there's an emotional need that you're looking to get met, and you need to hit the right thing at the right time.
Mm.
And sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. And sometimes the writing's too good to care, right? I would say Lions of El Rasan would be a great example of that, except for the fact that I had one of the guys that I know in real life that likes fantasy books. I recommended it to him, and he got halfway through and he called me. He was like, "Why did you recommend this thing to me?" I was like, "You got to be kidding."
That was one of those times where I started it and just immediately was sucked in, and like I finished that, and it became one of my all-time favorite books. I've read almost half of his books now, actually, which is kind of it makes me a little bit sad because I don't want them to end.
Yeah.
But that book is just I love it, and I definitely have known some people who did not care for it as much, or just with different things too. But it pulled me in so immediately, and his books I just like they've become my comfort reads because it's just I feel like I'm just immersed in the story, and just I love just listening to him tell his story, and it's definitely that aspect of it is a big thing where I don't think I could ever start one of his books and be like, "No, I'm not in the mood." I think he'd get me in the mood.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is a weird way to phrase that, but yeah, no, I just
and
yeah.
you can punch me in the face. Patrick Rothfuss is the guy that got me back into fantasy. I thought his writing was magnificent, and I loved it all the way down the line. However, Gemmel's prose is so good that he makes Hob look like she's driving in a golf cart. It's just like I was just reading it today when I was on my walk. I was reading Arbonne, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Some of these sentences are so beautiful. I want to back it up and listen to them again.
Yeah. And there's so many little passages like that, which I always send them to Andrew because Andrew's like, oh, it's just unnecessary. It's too much overwritten. And I'm just like, you don't get it.
You don't like it. You don't like it.
No, I always joke because we had such similar taste for a long time, and we've branched dramatically. But I'm just like, yeah, the way Kay writes, he's a very singular author, and there's so many times you just read a little passage and you're like, that is just perfect and beautiful, and I absolutely love it. Arbonne that was the second one I did after Lions, and it is
okay.
phenomenal.
I'm doing the same thing.
Similar, yeah. So I think I did after that. I did the Sarantine Mosaic, which remains my least favorite. It's still very good. Like not as good. K is still better than most authors.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's like
still
pizza
very
and
good,
sex. Even when it's not all that good, it's still pretty good.
Yeah. And then A Brightness Long Ago is I think my second favorite now because that one was phenomenal. And I just did All the Seas of the World, which is All the Seas of the World is supposed to be like a lower tier K. It was magnificent. Like I loved it as well. So I've been enjoying the heck out of his books.
Nice. Yeah. So Jack London, who you may have heard of, has had a trick where he would just take writers that he thought were really good, and he would read their book and rewrite 3 of the chapters in their book so that he could get used to figuring out how their prose was constructed by forcing himself to go through every sentence and write that sentence. And today I was thinking at some point I'm going to have to do that with Kay because there's so much to be learned there from the way that he crafts the work. You could not possibly become a worse writer by going through that exercise.
I totally get that. That's where I've buddy read a lot of K books with Ben from Genghis Khan, and Zamar Amar, who's an author. And as he was going through, he would just read through and he's like, man, like I can't write right after reading K because he just makes me feel so bad about myself as an author, which I can understand. I mean, K was definitely hard to compete with.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't know yet because I haven't read enough of it. But if any of the other books are as good as Lions, I don't think there's a better prose writer in fantasy.
yeah, Lions is still my favorite. I think part of that is the first one I read. I feel like that's a lot of people. The first K book you experience becomes your favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Arbonne is excellent. But yeah, just wait. Brightness Long Ago is so good, and that's one of the newer ones. He does shift a little bit in his newer stuff. He like addresses the reader as the storyteller a little bit more. And so he'll like opine on something or just like take a step back from the story for a minute and just like talk to you as the storyteller. And it's not everybody loves it, but it's so good.
I
Like
love
some
that.
of my all-time favorite things are passages like that. And it's absolutely beautiful. And I love it so much. And so that's where like Lions does that a lot less. He's always had some of that. So there's a little bit of a different style, but it's so good. And he got some flack for his newest book, Written on the Dark, is a little bit more author inserty. There was like a hard insert at one point, which is very intentional.
Okay.
But I was okay with it.
All right.
Yeah, it was still really good. Like it's definitely not his best by any means. But it was still just really good. Like besides maybe his debut, Le Fion of Our Tapestry, I don't know if I'm going to like that, but that's very different from all of his other stuff.
Okay.
Besides that, I can't imagine there's going to be one of his books that I'm not going to enjoy at least a fair bit.
Yeah.
Because he's just so good.
Yeah.
Lions, I think is a great one to start with.
That's what I know. Again, it's the only one I've read, but you can't go too far wrong. The thing is, if you get through 125 pages of that book and it's not for you, K is not for you, right?
Yeah.
That you've got what it is, what it feels like, the kind of romantic smoke of yesteryear painted over the whole thing. There's no magic in Lions except for a brief little kind of, I can see what my dad is doing no matter where he is in the world, that barely works into the plot. But other than that, there's no magic. It's just it's such romantic style writing that it's hard not to get swept up in the tide.
Yeah, that's he phrases it as it's his quarter turn to the fantastical.
Yeah, totally.
Is what he says, and
it's barely.
Yeah,
I mean, most
of his stuff reads like
names.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
like we've got Muslims, Christians, and Jews by other names. We've got Spain by another name. We've got France by another name. It's very Spanish Reconquista. It's just you could change everything back to the original names, and you'd have a piece of literary historical fiction with a magic element in it.
Yeah, he uses that sometimes though, because he will the setting will be like analog for this setting, but then things aren't necessarily going to go the way they did in the real world. And there's been
I'm getting that feeling with Arbonne.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times that I've read, I won't even begin to tell you which because I don't want to spoil anything, but where there's something that if you know the history, you feel like you know what's going to happen and where it's going. Granted, you don't care because he's just such a great storyteller. Yeah. But then he will do something very different and totally unexpected. And so it's like he even will use that, like you being familiar with it. And if you're not familiar with it, it's still surprising. But if you are familiar with it, it's almost even more surprising. So you get rewarded either way. But yeah, it's yeah. Oh my gosh, I love Guy Gavriel. That's it. This is just the Guy Gavriel K. Gus stream now.
The funny thing to me, okay, what I love about human beings, yeah, because it's not just books and it's not just movies and it's not just TV or whatever, is that you can absolutely love Guy Gavriel K and finish Lions of Alrasan and switch right over into Dungeon Crawler Carl, and you're having just as good of a time. Right? I mean, in common in any way, shape, and form, but you can love them both.
I feel like after a K book, though, you almost have to make a change like that, because you're doing a disservice to whatever you read next. At least for me.
I kind of agree. You need to read Dungeon Crawler Carl after K, because you can't try and read anybody who's writing prose. Right?
Yeah.
No. You need to read something stupid and, read some Pratchett, maybe. It's just like, you gotta switch out of that hard, because it's like nobody else is going to be able to go back to back and measure up.
That was where because I always go into almost a little mini reading slump after a K book often, because I'm just like, I don't know what's going to get me pulled in as much, but I did the opposite, which I wouldn't recommend the series for you. I don't think you're interested anyway. But I read the second Prince of Nothing book by R. Scott Baker, and that man is a phenomenal writer as well. His prose is fantastic, and the way he does theme and it's so good. And The Warrior Prophet, I loved that book. It's been one of my favorite books I've read this year. But I'm like, what's going to follow that? So I did a Guy Gavriel K, and I was just fine, because K is so good that it got me completely being fine. But it's very so Baker is people oversell how dark it is, at least for the first trilogy. The later books are supposed to be more so, but it gets very far into nihilism and stuff. And I don't feel like it would be for you. You could definitely try it, because you'll appreciate the craft if nothing else.
I was told no. Daniel Green did a dive down fantasy subgenres. And at the bottom of his list for grimdark, for what was the most grimmiest, darkiest that he had read, was The Black Company. Right? And I read that book, and it barely registered as dark to me at all. So I think I'm okay with grimdark. I don't.
It's one of those things that it depends. Yeah, people define it differently.
I just want an interesting story. If you want to make them all bad guys, that's fine. Cabin in the Woods. Do you ever see that movie?
Yes.
Right? Cabin in the Woods is the most nihilistic thing I've ever seen in my life. Loved it. Absolutely loved it, because it was creative and interesting and beautiful storytelling, despite the fact that all it is a horror movie by definition.
Well, if you try it, I'm kind of curious now, for sure. But it is kind of slow moving, and it's playing off of sort of a different version of Crusades, because a lot of it centers around a holy war. But he is like I said, he's a phenomenal writer. He's one of, just as a pure writer, up there with the greats, I would very confidently say. But it's the kind of stuff that you have to be okay with it's very slow, which some people don't like. And then it apparently, like I said, everybody tells me when I'm like, this isn't as dark as I expected, they're like, yeah, wait till you get to the next sequel series. So I fully expect more, but it's just, it's his writing is phenomenal. The way he handles theme, and a lot of the themes with the initial trilogy are around nihilism and the death of reason. In book 3, he starts really going hard into the philosophy, and it was my least favorite. But it was still really good. I'm not much for too much philosophy in my books, but
All right.
I enjoyed it.
It's added to the list.
I feel like you're gonna love me or hate me for that one, but it was the funniest thing with that one too, because I'd heard about it, and like it's one of those series that, you know, people, it's a very much people either tend to like love or hate, because it also, all the characters are terrible people. Like there's nobody you can really root for, but you can at the same time, the characters are very well developed, so you can still like
Are they
feel for
compelling?
them, sort of. Yeah. But like people are like, oh, they always warn you about it. But the person who made me really feel like I have to check this out was Joanna, because her talk, even though she is about as far from, I feel like, the target audience of that series as you could get, and she just was talking about so many things that it does well, and I'm just like, yeah, I really, if like I'm hearing from very different sides and from very different people how amazing this is, I'm like, I need to check it out, and I'm very glad I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also, it does a lot of exploration of toxic masculinity in a way that is, the intention is that the reader is supposed to internalize it and take lessons from it, I guess, is from what I've heard, which I can see from a lot of the things are written there.
Okay.
So it is very much written with a male audience in mind. But
well, as we all know, no books are being written for men.
Of course not. No, absolutely.
How do these debates come up? Do they just have like a consortium every month and decide, let's make an outrageous statement. We're going to be Donald Trump for a second. We're going to say the most stupid thing that we can, and we're just going to spread it all over the internet. And this is what everybody will talk about for a month.
Okay, as a white man, I'm very offended by this. Okay, so I'm so offended that all you snowflakes are being mean to me and don't care about my feelings at all. So sadly it is a thing, Derek, where like that's the thing, because all the books are too woke these days, and that nobody cares about it. But have you what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on the author's name. The something Black Sword. He's been controversial about making some of those comments.
I mean, Larry Corellia.
Yes.
Corellia?
Okay. Yeah. So I have not read any of his stuff. I am curious to read his one series, but I did try reading a really short sci-fi thing he did that there was like an audio original, and it was just the most like unfunny boomer humor that I've ever read in my entire life. And it was like hard, like, and super, it was very, I think, very recent, and it was super dated stuff too. I'm just like, I feel like he might be in that crowd. But
this is why nothing's being written for you, because you're too old.
I mean, it's just the idea too that, I mean, I feel like fantasy was looked at as being a thing where the only audience people thought wanted to read fantasy was men for so long, and now it's just people are like, oh hey, all kinds of people like reading fantasy. Yeah. What if we, wrote fantasy for everyone? And the fact that some people are offended by that, it's just like, if you just want to read the fantasy that is directed at you, there's decades of that,
Decades.
Read it.
Well, and at some point somebody got the brilliant idea, hey, wait a second, romance is the most popular genre on the planet. What if we start doing fantasy romances? That'll get people into fantasy, and you wind up with Court of Thorn and Roses. Now, I don't like Court of Thorn and Roses, but lots of people do, and it hit that vein that they needed. And it was just like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, you can argue about whether they're actually into fantasy or they're not into fantasy. I don't really care. But they're branching out the horizons on what they're reading, and they're not just doing bodice rippers, and they're not just doing Fabio covers, and they're doing something cool and different and interesting. And that's the great thing about SFF, is that guaranteed there's a couple of concepts in there that you haven't really thought about or explored that deeply that are going to wake up some different parts of your brain and go, oh, what would that be like? Well, what would that mean? Well, how would that work? And I think that's a pile of fun. romantasy, not for me. But if it gets people to cross that bridge into fantasy,
absolutely.
where you've got people that would just be reading romance who, after a year or two, stumble their way into Hob, that's a win.
Oh, 100%. It's something too. And so I'm a big fan of metal music. And you see the level of gatekeeping in metal and fantasy I think it's a lot of it's the same group of people. There's so much overlap between metal and fantasy fans.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm one of them, but you see the similar kind of gatekeeping where if something's like not metal enough, people are mad that people are enjoying it. And it's just like, even if you don't like the band or if you don't like the book, don't read it. But if more people are getting into the genre because this is a good gateway, like that's a net positive. Fantasy is more popular right now than it's been in a while. I mean, it had a moment with like the Game of Thrones TV show.
Sure.
But it's just like romantasy has been the big thing that's getting a lot of people curious. And if you don't like it, don't read it. But I definitely agree, because fantasy, the most amazing thing about it is it can be anything. And there are so many great things you can do. And I love reading a fantasy book and I'm like, this is something cool or different I've not seen before, or exploring something in a different way. Like, that's the idea. I don't want to read the same story over and over again. I mean, give me something new and fresh and different.
Well, I feel like fantasy SFF is the opposite of police procedurals on TV, right? And like that's the human basic, where it's like guns, fire, spies, doctors, right? Those are the four things that most people are going to tap into, because those are the stories that we're going to see. And we're just going to rinse and repeat those stories over and 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 over. And they'll just eat them like bonbons. Oh, gee, isn't this great? And they'll never branch out to anything else. And then I think fantasy, sci-fi, you can take all of those things and suddenly make them completely different from anything that you've seen before, with just a little twist. And to people who are interested in not the same thing over and over again, SFF offers this gigantic door and says, well, then come in through here because we've got everything for you.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where like I read a lot of older books that people aren't reading anymore too. And I read modern stuff too, obviously, as well. But even with like, if I'm picking up a book and it's, it's 40 years old, or it's 60 years old, or it's 80, however old it is. And I'm seeing like, oh, I've actually not seen this done in this way before. Or like, oh, I've seen things that definitely took inspiration from this. But it's interesting to go back and see that. But it's also interesting to see somebody just doing something totally wild and different. And I love the fact that I can pick up a book and be like, I've never seen this before. And it's, you can still use familiar things and tropes and stuff like that too. Is totally fine. I love a good, I'm a sucker for a coming of age fantasy, as much as the next guy. And, I like some of that stuff. I like, some of my just classic style stuff like that too. But it's like, I love seeing and doing different things like that too. So it's fun. I will admit to feeling salty that romantasy books get all the cool little flourishes like sprayed edges or fancy character artwork, while the non-romance fantasy gets very little of that. You do see, I feel like it's bled over a little bit, where there's a lot more of those kind of special things. But you always, that's where it's popular, is when you start seeing that. It makes me think, if you look on like Book Outlet right now, which is like the discount book retailer or overstock book retailer, you will find so many of those sprayed edges special edition books, because they started doing it a lot. It's not everything's sold as well, but
well, it turns out they're kind of flooding the market.
Yeah.
My honest, I'm the only guy in the community who doesn't give a damn what the cover looks like, or if it has sprayed edges or the special edition. To me, it's all what the meat is inside. And so like every time I see a special edition and everybody going nuts, I'm like, it's the same story, but okay, it looks good on your bookshelf.
I'm not like I don't really care too much about sprayed edges, but I am a sucker for like old school fantasy art, or just cool art in general. But like I don't know, I do love a lot of the old school type of art, and I picked up many a book because it has a cool cover, and so I'm definitely I fall into there.
I have to admit, the most terrifying thing that I discovered about myself in the last 5 years, other than the murders I didn't know I committed, the I got the 50th anniversary versions of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and there's an artist who did the Platinum Edition, and there's an artist named Daryl K. Sweet who did the art for all four of those books. And I was moving my stuff out of the old house and into the new house, and I was going through all my old fantasy books and getting rid of everything because I can't cart this stuff around with me the rest of my life. And I started going through, oh, I love this book. Oh, I love this book. Oh, I love this book. And it turns out that everything I bought between the time I was 10 and 20 had a Daryl K. Sweet cover. I would just buy it because it was a Daryl. I had no idea.
1000% me.
Really?
If I could, yes. Like I used to just buy books. Like I'd go into like a thrift store or something, and I'm like, oh, Daryl K. Sweet, and I'd grab it. Like I could just tell. So many books like that I discovered that way as well. Yeah, 100%.
I had no idea that it was the same guy. I just was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, that's what a fantasy cover is supposed to look like. I read friggin' Lord Fowl's Bane because of that guy.
So good though. I know you don't like it, but
this is our number one point of contention. Is Lord
don't worry,
Fowl's
Rooker was
Bane.
not harmed by taking a tumble. It's funny that you diss a book I like, and then your book takes a tumble.
And my book takes a tumble. My book fails to Lord Fowl's Bane.
This is, I mean, I don't think this one is that cover anyway. I don't know who did this cover, but it's not the Sweet cover. Who did this cover?
Yeah, that original Daryl K. Sweet red cover, green cover, blue cover. He just basically rinsed and repeated what he did for the Platinum Edition of the Lord of the Rings. I mean, Eye of the World. I picked up Eye of the World because it had a Daryl K. Sweet cover, right?
Well, see, the Wheel of Time. That's why I, recognized Daryl K. Sweet so much, and that's what I would look for.
He had a certain way of doing noses that I just thought were the best noses. They just have a little kind of flat upturn at the end of every nose, and they just there were books that were utterly worthless. Joel Rosenberg's The Sleeping Dragon had a Daryl K. Sweet cover, and it was like a 1984 lit RPG book about guys playing D&D, and then they get transported into the fantasy world, and it was just like, this is stupid. But I'm going to read it anyway because it got a Daryl K. Sweet cover and the dragon looks cool.
I legitimately, I picked up, and I knew it was going to be bad, and it was fun. I picked up a book very specifically because it had kind of interesting art, and it was like Beyond the Drax. Oh yeah, Beyond the Drax Teeth. Okay, and it is. It was so strange, but immediately I saw the cover and I'm just like, I need to read this book. I'm going to send you a picture of it, of what
I got it. I got it.
Oh,
I know this cover. I know that cover.
And it was not good.
It's the Daryl K. Sweet lean. The guy in the boat has his whole shoulders are hunched and then his head is up like this. He's got that on like at least a third of his covers.
I know, and that's where I saw this, and I'm like, this is just cheesy Daryl K. Sweet goodness, and I'm like, I'm gonna read this book, and I did. It was not good, but it was that one was like it was one of those. It was so ridiculous, but it was just fun. But yeah, I love me some Daryl K. Sweet, and a lot of people don't care for his style, but I have such a soft spot for it.
Every minute of every day. If I could do anything, I would. I had one wish. I would resurrect Daryl K. Sweet from the dead and have him do my covers and then let him go back to sleep.
I would love that. Oh man. I love that that's it's such a shared experience though, because for so many years, that's literally how I picked books. Like I would look for, I got a lot of Tor books because Tor did Wheel of Time. And anytime I saw it, I'm like, that's Daryl K. Sweet. I'm grabbing that.
Yeah, Torun Valentine. It's amazing how much cover art. I mean, that's why I redid that one, because
I need to get
cover
my
art
new one.
matters.
Yeah.
And you know, if you don't get an idea of what the damn thing is going to be, it's very difficult for somebody to pick it up. You can't judge a book by its cover, but you can sure buy it based on one.
Yeah.
And
For
you
sure.
know, it's amazing, because like when you're on Amazon and you're kind of looking through these things, like some of them are going to stand out and most of them are not. And you got to figure out a way, like as an indie author, to be able to grab somebody's attention, or at least convey, you know, hey, what's in this thing? It's like, okay, let's put a freaking dragon on the cover. Okay.
It does, I mean, that does get the interest for sure. But yeah, you know, that's where, and I mean, I've talked about plenty of books that I will always comment if I don't like the cover, even if I really enjoy the book. But it's like that for getting things in the wild, getting that kind of big, just like pickup thing, it's so important. But also, I mean, there are definitely people that they're like, oh, I was going to read this, but the cover looked weird, so I didn't want to. And I mean, that's a real thing that people do, and
I know.
it's not always the case. But like my current example, which you should also read this book. I'll send you a copy if you want, because nobody's read this book. The Haunt on the Island of Esmer by Justin A.W. Blair. I am one of like 3 reviews on this book on Goodreads. Yeah, I know. It's the guy painted it himself, and it was not intended to be a book cover. He just ran out of money and could not afford to get a book cover. And so that's what he did. And nobody's going to pick that up because they see that and they're like, oh, that looks interesting.
Nope.
Book was so good. It's kind of like Black Company meets Malazan, but doesn't feel too derivative of either. And I wasn't super big on Black Company myself. And so that's where I feel like that's a weird way to sell it. But it's like, it's got those elements. It's got really good fantasy elements. It has some like cosmic horror stuff in it. And it it's like dark fantasy without trying to go all grimdark either. So it's very good.
What's the favorite thing? What's your favorite thing you've read this year? I mean, we're in September now. You've got a good number of books underneath you. What's the leader at this point?
This is difficult. So
I'm sorry. I know you're gonna you make an entire video about that at some point, but
one of my hardest ones is I did this for the first half of the year, and it was like the first quarter was a pretty weak reading quarter for me. Overall, I just like I enjoyed a lot of stuff. I didn't have a lot of winners, but the second quarter was fantastic. So I mentioned The Warrior Prophet already by Baker. That's definitely up there. Brightness Long Ago. Okay, definitely up there. And then Song of the Beast, Carol Berg is another really fantastic one, which is a standalone and does so much in a standalone. It was really, really exceptional. And then probably some other things I mentioned. The Magicians by Love Grossman. I can't believe I loved that book and series. One of the biggest shocks for me in a long time, but I would recommend that one for you. His prose is very good, and it's very good for the somewhat jaded adult fantasy fan. Is I think the target audience there works well. It's another good one. And then like, well, you don't like Donaldson, but I read Morden's Need, that duology from him. And Kate,
I met him at Worldcon.
You met Donaldson?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Hopefully, you didn't tell him how much you hate.
I wish I could have turned into you at that moment, so that you could have appreciated it, because I sure didn't.
I do. Donaldson is one of those authors. I absolutely get why a lot of people don't like his stuff. His stuff is challenging, and a lot of times he writes characters in stories that are challenging to get into. But there is something about his writing that I really loved. So I've really enjoyed his stuff. I did just read The Gap Cycle, the first book. Anytime I mention Donaldson, people tell me I have to read that book, and it is I couldn't rate that book. I don't often have books that can't rate, but I'm like, I don't know, because of the material in it, which is,
Rapey?
Not even just straight up,
straight up rape.
Yeah. And it's supposed to
books that do not contain rape. That's what I want to know. Look, man, if I lose fantasy football this year, you're going to make me read a Donaldson book.
I should.
That'll be my punishment.
Oh gosh. It's like oh my gosh. It's always, I will say, at least in Thomas Covenant, it seems like it comes out of nowhere and is just done for shock value. It is actually very important to the story, and it's not like looked over or forgotten. And you don't see the full effect of it until the third book, I will say. But it's like it really is important, and it's like it has a lasting impact. It doesn't make it like okay that it happened, and I totally get why people check out at that point. But also, like, I don't know, the modern grimdark thing, people do stuff way worse than that all the time in books, and people are okay with. So I don't know what it is, like, for people who like that anyway, what it is about that directly turns people off. Like Prince of Thorns, Mark Lawrence, the main character commits a rape in like the first chapter. And granted, a lot of people don't care for that either, but it's just like it's not like it's the only book where that happens, but it's important to the overall story. And I know that how that sounds, but it's, yeah. When I first read that, I was just like, I appreciated some things about it, but I was not sold until the second book. And even the second book still had something that I didn't like, but the third book, that's where I'm like, okay, this is a masterpiece altogether. I get it now. So yeah.
Well, if I lose fantasy football, you can make me read the second one, but you can't make me read the third one.
If you don't want to read the third one after the second one, I would never make you, to be honest. But the second one is, I put off reading it for so long myself, and like nobody was making me, but I just I used to have trouble DNFing anything or like not continuing a series, and Blessing and the Curse.
Past that.
Yeah, I mean, I could not read as much as I read and everything if I didn't let myself DNF. It was a process though, just because I always I never wanted to do it, but especially with trying to get through so many things and like review copies as well. I always feel bad if I DNF a review copy, but like if I force myself through every review copy I don't like, I'm not going to get any reading done.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Give it a 2-star and move on? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah. And, but so it's, yeah, but that series, like if at the time, I do wonder, like, would I ever have gotten through it if I was more okay with DNFing? But I also would have never finished Malazan if I had let myself DNF books, because I appreciate
6 and 7 are bad. No, that's
Jordan. I hated the first half of pretty much every book in the series.
Okay.
I would hate read it, and then by the second half, I was really hooked, and then rinse repeat. Okay. And it took me, I read nothing but that for like a year, because it took me that long to finish it. And in retrospect, I do appreciate it a lot, actually. And I still think about lots of things from that book regularly. And so like, I want to reread it now, because granted, I read it like 10-ish years ago, and I feel like I would appreciate it more now. And knowing that it's worth it in the end, I think would help too. But yeah, I had a horrible time reading that series for the most part until I got through. But
you didn't get to a point where like book 5, you're like, okay, I'm going to hate the first half of this thing and then it's going to get good?
Like, I would know, but part of it is for the first several books, you switch continents and casts of characters every book. Like book 1 is kind of weird. It sets up some stuff. So like, that's kind of interesting. But then book 2, you completely switch it up. Different continent, pretty much all new characters. But then that book 2 is one of my favorite all-time plot lines. It just is so good. And then you're like, okay, this is really good. But then book 3, again, you switch it up. And then in book 4, completely different. And like, I think book 4 is it book 4? I don't know. One of them is you literally have like no returning characters. And I was just so annoyed. I'm like, I don't care about these new people at all. And like, eventually you get past it. But that was where, I don't know, reading that series, maybe toward the end, I would always be, after I finished the book, I'd always be like, okay, I'm definitely going to continue now. And I want to find out what happens. But then I would just like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, because I've rarely had something like that where I both hated it so much and appreciated and enjoyed parts of it so much. That's where I literally had a love-hate relationship with that series. Very, very literally, because there were times where I just like was forcing myself to read it. But then like still we're like, I'll think about like, gosh, that plot line is so good, or like that's so good. And and I'm still not like the super fan of it. It doesn't, at least now, it doesn't crack my top 10 all-time series or anything like that. Just because I didn't have a very good time reading it. It probably deserves to be on the list on its own merits, but I definitely rank based on personal enjoyment. And so it's one of those things. Maybe when I reread it, I'll be a real convert. I'll have to see.
You're 75% of the way there, right?
I've been saying I need to reread Malison for years. And my excuse was, Malison's what made me hate mass market paperbacks too. I read the whole thing mass market paperback, and the size of some of those books, granted there are way worse ones now, but the size of some of those books is crazy. Yeah. And so that was not fun. And I have the whole big paperback collection now over here, so I have no excuse. But I
love how that's I love how that's one of those that gets brought up over and over again. One of the things that I really so you talk about Malazan, and you talk about Eye of the World, and you talk about Dragonbone Chair, and all of these are super long and super dense and require a lot of paying attention to things from book to book and keeping track of a lot of different characters. And I got to admit, it kind of turns me off, because starting those, I know if I like it, I'm in for like a year of reading these books. And so they better just be absolutely phenomenal in order for me to start them. And I'm going to take a hard left turn and say that I think Dungeon Crawler Carl is the 21st century Eye of the World. I feel like that is a gigantic series that manages to pull everybody in. And it's not the audiobook. Yes, I understand the audiobook is amazing and the best produced thing on the market. But there's something that is so snackable about the entire thing. It takes all of the things that I don't like about big epic fantasy and puts a grease slide on it and lets me just run. And I appreciate the fact that Dinneman, who also met at Worldcon, is able to do that so well and turn this gigantic series into something that also feels bite-sized. I just think it's a phenomenal achievement.
So that's another one of those series that I'm still kind of surprised that I love, because it's so, you described that, not for me. Right. I have tried several like lit RPGs. I don't like lit RPG. I still don't. It's like that is the exception to the rule.
It is,
and it is that series that you very rarely hear anyone who does not like it. Like those people do exist. And I think it's at the point where it literally can't really be hyped anymore. So you're going to get people who are, you're not going to be able to help it. It's not going to live up. But it just like, it has that something for everyone too. And for me, it's silly, it's funny, but it also like has those moments of heart, and it gets like way darker, even very early on than you would think.
Oh yeah,
at points, because it's like, yeah, this is silly and it's fun, but then he also makes sure that you think about the horror of the situation, of what's really happening. And it's just the last book, which I know is the kind of the more controversial one, because he's like doubling down on the serious parts of it. But that's kind of what's showing that like, hey, yeah, this is still silly. We're still gonna have stupid fun, but this is also like a real story with like so much depth. And yeah, I listened to the whole thing, and then when the sixth book was going to be coming out, I listened to the whole thing again before that one, and I I love them. So I have the hardcovers now, and it's just that is still a surprising series for me, but it just does so many great things. And I still don't like Lit RPG, and that's okay. But
I haven't found
a lot
another one that
of
I've enjoyed.
Yeah, I've tried, and I
But
had
I
some people who
also
were like,
haven't found another lit RPG that does anything similar to it at all. Like
yeah,
He Who Fights with Monsters. It's not well written. The prose isn't good. The jokes aren't good. It's just kind of a math exercise with some characters involved. And the other ones that I've read have felt exactly the same way. And I think the idea of lit RPG is so dumb that it should fall on its face over and over and over again. And for me, it has, except for when somebody took it and said, no, I'm going this way. And trying to pretend like that first book has genuine, serious depth to it is kind of a joke, but it's layered underneath so that you get an idea of what it's gonna do and you're intrigued to know more. And the characters are fun and interesting. That dialogue never gets old. But more important than anything is the thing that I love best, which is surprises. You really genuinely have no idea where this thing is going to go next. And to me, that is the nom 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 of it, where you just keep going chapter after chapter after chapter, saying, I really have no idea where this is going to go, because I know he's going to be funny, but I also know he's going to punch you in the gut and rip off your balls every once in a while. Oh, okay. Which one am I going to get in this chapter? And that question mark about what is going to happen next, to me, I don't think I've ever read a series where I felt like I had no firm footing on what was actually going to happen next. I know he's not going to kill Carl, and I know he's not going to kill Donut. Everybody else is fair game. And okay, how's that going to play out? And it's not even the character death stuff that works. Some of it is not the humor and not the character depth and not the overarching satire of what's going on. It's you just dropped me into a situation that I never even imagined as being a thing, and now you're going to play that out in a way that I don't know what's going to happen next at all. And feeling that way, to me, when you're walking into a book, oh my goodness, that is the best possible thing that you could have.
Yeah, it's hard to balance all of that between there's not many books that can have the just laugh out loud funny moments and like the super big gut punches and be surprising and like heartwarming but horrifying, and like he manages to fit a lot in. And it's silly, and there's a lot of dumb stuff, and there is depth that builds over time. And like I do agree, like the first book has flashes of like kind of like this is a little bit darker, or this is a little bit more messed up than I realized it was going to get. But it's you don't really see the big picture until you go in. He kind of eases you in. And they're like, yeah, there's all the kind of the fun stuff if you're just here for the fun, but then there's the bigger story. But it's just, I mean, it's what shows you is despite, what he's writing and maybe a little bit ridiculous at times, but he's a really good writer, and he's able to tell this really good story. And it's obviously brought a very wide range of people together.
And I think the idea of, I mean, you go through the list in SFF of who's funny, and that list is really short. I mean, that's Patchett and Adams. I mean, that's it. And just goes to show what bringing humor into the environment can do. And the way humor works best is when you pair it with darkness. And it just sings the whole way. Like you get in these book burnout modes, or you come out of K and you're like, nothing else can ever be written this well ever again. Or you just finish something that's 800 pages long and you're just kind of blown up. I have a hard time not going to Dungeon Crawler Carl. Like I can't remember the last time I got 6 books deep in a series, and I had to slow down to let other people catch up. And like it's like, well, what am I going to read while I'm not reading Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Yeah. That's where it was such an easy sell to go back and do it again. And I could absolutely see myself just being like, hey, I just need kind of a break and do it, because they're very, very entertaining and just also just really darn good. Yeah.
I would like to see more of that in the SFF space. I think that's a nut that's waiting to get cracked open. And, whether it's lit RPG or not, I don't really care. But the idea of creating something that's really super easy for the audience to get into, like a slip and slide with oil on it, and just lets you go and have fun and boom, 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 move your way through it, I just think is a gift. And absolutely. I hope we get more of that in the next 5 years.
I definitely agree. So on that note, I've realized how late it is. We've been going for almost 2.5 hours.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I did not realize that myself. It's way past my bedtime, but
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. It's I see. This is why immediately I'm like, this is going to be a fun episode, because I knew we could just sit and talk forever, and so
screw around.
A wide variety of topics, and we still have several people here. Nobody had commented for a while, but we've maintained some viewership.
They're all reading Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yeah,
or Stephen R. Donaldson, because they really want to be depressed and are considering suicide and need someone to just give them that final push.
Donaldson is he's so good though. I do get it. I need to see, here I am talking again, but when I did I read the Mordant's Need, that duology, and the first book is The Mirror of Her Dreams, and it comes from it's a quote from Silverlock by John Myers. The mirror of her dreams is empty until a man rides through, and that's where the 2 books come from. I haven't read that book either, but yeah. Anyway, so I read that, and I like to read reviews after I read a book, and I'm just seeing all of these reviews, and I try not to be that guy, but I'm just like, so many of them, it's like, you clearly missed the point, because it was one of those things, and I try to never be that guy. But it was just like, people are complaining about something. They're like, oh, I don't like this character. She's way too passive. I'm like, that's the point. That is like the entire premise of the character. If you don't like it, that's fine. But people acting like he's just like, he did a bad job by writing this. And like, that the character's supposed to be that way. And it really did irritate me a lot. And so I in my review, I'm just like, if you don't like something, that's totally fine. Like, I read a lot of books people don't like, that's okay. And I don't like a lot of books that a lot of other people like, and that's okay. Just like, don't bash things because you didn't like it and act like it's objectively bad. And that's what gets me. And so like, I had a little rant in my review about this, and I lost a couple subscribers, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Better off. But it made me laugh that happened. So, but Tobias says or maybe read A.R. Witham, which on that note, we haven't mentioned it a little bit. We talked about it a lot. We've been super, but the final book in the Locke Institute trilogy, The Execution of Rooker Flynn, this is the first book. So I'm ashamed I don't yet have copies.
Well, that's okay. It was just published today. Yes. I don't even have a copy yet. So
I was going to say, I'm waiting to buy them direct. You can buy them on Amazon, or you could be even cooler and buy them directly on Andy's website.
It's probably true. I don't know if I've even set the 3rd book up to be purchased yet. But just in case you're wondering, the title says Execution, and the art has a noose around his neck. So if you're wondering what happens in the book, you ought to be able to tell by the cover.
That's true. It's true. But yeah, I have read the whole thing. It is excellent. And it'll be a good one to binge too. Now that it's all out. So if you're one of the people who likes to wait till something is done, it's done. It is very bingeable. I promise you, you'll have no problem doing that as well. So definitely make sure to check it out on today, the day of its release. But
on that, this was just kismet that this just worked out. It was just like, hey, you want to do a thing? I'm like, oh, I'm available on the 2nd. Okay, great. Let's do it on the 2nd. Okay, it's a book release day. Well, let's go.
This did work really well. So we were, because I tried to schedule over Worldcon because I'm dumb, and I looked up when Worldcon was, and it told me when it is next year. And so I'm like, oh, so he's free, and then now I'm at Worldcon. So it worked out really well. So yeah, thanks for joining me on release day. I'm glad we could do this and chat, and hopefully get some more people to check out the books. But
yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time and being able to spend the time and just do this dumb conversation about.
It's been a lot of fun.
The Rooker Flynn stuff and everything else that we talked about. It's just like I get great joy out of this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this has been a really great time. So with that, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yes, you should read Dungeon Crawler Cards. And Guy Gabriel K. And you should read them back to back because they won't interfere with each other at all.
Weirdly true, but very true. Layla's watching again.
Oh, Layla hates it. Oh, so all right, we'll do the romance for you, Layla.
To be fair, it's when they're using the chat feature, it makes a beeping noise, and she hates that beeping noise, and that's what she hates. It like drives her nuts. So she hated when I was listening to that audiobook in the shower because I would play on the Bluetooth.
For Layla, we should write a lit RPG romance, and like you could have boner scores.
It's untapped market.
Oh, it's gonna get tapped.
And that's the title of the first book.
It's gonna get tapped.
Level up your Riz.
Perfect.
I feel like we have to end before we either get in trouble or sell a million books.
Yeah.
So
lit RPG fantasy, wave of the future. We're all set.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks so much everybody for joining. This has been an absolute blast, as I knew it would be. But yes, definitely go check out the Rooker Flynn books. The Locke Institute trilogy are really great. And yeah, everything else we talked about. Thanks for watching everybody live, or if you just sat through 2.5 hours of us shooting the breeze, you're awesome too. So
that's amazing.
Thanks again, and we'll see you all later.
Ciao, bella. Bye.